And there's also how spiritual self affects your mental, and your mental affects your spirit and your energetic. People who have no energetic boundaries and get totally enmeshed, that affects them physically. Emotional trauma impacts your immune system. Back and forth in all these directions. I really, as I grew in my understanding of all that, I wanted to work with people on all those levels. Not just one, not just like make my physical go away, but like, well, why is that there? And what are the other pieces that are contributing to that? And let's explore that.
Your organization has achieved a significant dent in vaccine mandates.
We didn't do the science. We didn't do the clinical trials. We didn't do the post safety. But one thing we know it's rare.
Hello, and welcome to Shock Callers. I am Carrie Bigford, Outreach Director, and we are here with another engaging guest. Today we have Dr. Jeff Wulfman, who began his career as a classically trained MD, who through pure inability to discover what was driving the illness in his patients, he went from regular medicine, traditional allopathy, to functional medicine and beyond, all in the quest to discover what really was driving illness in his patients and how can he help restore himself and others to a fully expressed health. With that, I would love to welcome Dr. Jeff Wulfman to the call today. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Wulfman.
Yeah, really glad to be here, Carrie. It's great to, we met at a meeting and struck up a very lively conversation and then made a plan to do this. And I'm glad we brought it about. Absolutely.
Yes, Dr. Wulfman and I met at the National Health Federation. Those who follow us know that that's where we were. We were all over Texas this spring. And the thing that really struck me about Dr. Wulfman was he had a sign that said, "Health is a frequency." Could you kind of explain a little bit more about what that sign meant and kind of what your pursuit is?
Yeah, thanks. Well, it's been quite a journey. I mean, I started out, went to regular allopathic medical school and all that. And, it's sort of been this continuous journey from very dense things to more less dense and things you can't even see. So, starting with like anatomy, like, okay, the liver's here and these bones are here and these muscles are here. And what are the dysfunctions of that? To then physiology, like how is this enzyme going and what does this organ do? And then to biochemistry and those sorts of things. But when I got out into actual practice where the buck stopped with me, I couldn't just in training, you kind of see this one person at this one point in time and then do your thing and hope they do fine and you never hear from them again. Mm-hmm. But when I got into practice, it was like they came back and I was like, wow, I'm not happy with what's happening here. Like I don't feel I have a whole lot to offer. A lot of, if it's very clear cut, something nice and neat that fits in a box, but that's actually pretty rare. Mm-hmm. I didn't have a whole lot to offer. So I started searching. Mm-hmm. And, that has just continued to be this journey of looking at things from a energetic and a frequency based state, because everything's energy. Yeah. It's just more dense. Like you can feel this, but, and I can't feel the air so much, but it's just, it's just the molecules are further apart. It's all energy. And Einstein said that the future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Mm-hmm. And everything's frequency is just vibrating slower or faster. So I just got more and more fascinated with that and started exploring those other pieces that I wasn't taught. Then, you mentioned functional medicine. That's just the latest word. Like when I first started getting, looking at it was called holistic. And then it was CAM, complementary alternative medicine. Yep, I remember and then it was integrative. And now it's functional. And I don't know, maybe in a few years they'll call it something else. But, looking at these other ways.
Yeah, I love meeting doctors like you who have the humility to recognize their limitations in the traditional ways that they were taught to practice. Because I talk to so many doctors that get all excited, get all this training, all this time, and then they discover to their horror that they're very ill-equipped to help people truly express health. And some of them do what you did, which is pursue different models of education and different lenses to look at disease and dysfunction in the body and like a more holistic whole person view. And others just like dig deep into the allopathy of it all. And if you can't fit the box, then you're imagining it, right?
Yeah.
So tell me more about, because I know that you use a lot of different tools. At the table that you and I had met at, you had a PEMF mat. I would love to kind of explain to people more of what that is. I think there's a lot of miscommunication about the difference between like a PEMF versus like an infrared sauna versus like a red light situation.
Yeah.
Like people don't know.
Yeah. Well, which direction you want to go?
Let's talk about the PEMF mat and how that works and how it's different from those other two things.
The red lights or
the
sauna,
infrared saunas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, like if we look at the entirety of the electromagnetic spectrum, all the way from 6G or gamma rays to very, very, very slow vibrations, there's a huge range in there. And like right in the middle would be like visible light. Like visible light, what we can see with our eyeballs is just a little narrow piece of that pie of the whole electromagnetic spectrum. So our body produces electromagnetic field. Yep. You do an EKG or an EEG, electrodes on the brain. There's all kinds of things going. We are producing that. We produce a field. Yep. And so it is part of what we are. Mm-hmm. So you can bring in people like, well, is an electromagnetic field bad? Well, it depends. Where on the spectrum is it? If it's 5G, it's probably not so great. But if it's within the normal physiology, it can actually, be supportive. So, so if you look at like red light or infrared light, that is a certain place on that electromagnetic spectrum, and it has effects on physiology. And then if you look at PEMF, it depends on where on the spectrum that pulsed field is, but the therapeutic ones are within the range that the body normally creates. So you're actually staying within the normal physiologic range. And this is where I went from, kept going further and further back, anatomy and physiology and then biochemistry. But before that is actually biophysics. So ultimately, what powers the system is, electrons and molecular movement, molecular activation. So, as I kept, because I'm a root cause person, being functional, I was like, okay, okay, that's great. This is your symptom experience. What's going on, but what's causing it? But, I kept getting closer and closer to the root. And that's what actually took me to PMF was like, okay, we are electromagnetic.
PEMF, for those who don't know, is pulsed electromagnetic frequency, right?
Field.
Pulsed
electromagnetic field.
Perfect.
Yeah. So when you pulse electricity through a coil, it creates a magnetic field. And so, I was like, okay, well, if it's to that level, how do you actually get energy at that level? Mm-hmm. And that's, one way to do it. So for instance, like this cell phone can do a million things, but it has to have a charged battery to do it. Right? What happens when it gets to 5%? You go, oh my God, where's the charge cord? Where's the charge? So you can get it, right? Well, but also you can lay it on a wireless charger. Mm-hmm. And a pulsating electromagnetic field runs straight through it, through the battery, and it raises the charge of those electrons. Now you have the potential, and you can tell to do whatever you want, and it has the energy to do it. So it's somewhat similar to that. If you're laying on a pulsed field, it's running through your system, it charges you at the molecular level, and then your body decides what to do. And this is what I like, and this is where, you and I click on the body actually knows what to do.
The body is very wise.
It's very wise. And it's not stupid. And just a little side note, which I love to tell, I do not agree with autoimmunity. I do not believe that the body is attacking itself. It's actually trying to get at deeply entrenched things such as stealth microbes and toxins and so forth that are in the tissues and in the cells. it's not attacking itself. It's trying to do what it needs to do. There's collateral damage from that and inflammation issues. Anyway, side note. So if you charge the system, then the body can take that energy and do better what it's already trying to do. I mean, we're always detoxing. Our body's always trying to regenerate. It's always trying to gobble up cells that aren't supposed to be there and repair tissue and so forth. So if you give it the energy, it can do it better. So that's like in a sort of a global picture. And then, the specifics of why I went to this one in particular. I mean, that's a bigger story too, because it truly is what I feel is next evolution of the technology beyond. One of the misconceptions people make is they lump it all together. Like, oh, PMF is PMF. I have one, or I tried one.
Right.
That's kind of like saying supplements are supplements. I tried one time and it didn't work, so they don't work. Supplements don't work. Well, what was it?
Yeah.
What was the dose? What was the combo? Was it just
exactly.
Was it
Were
just
there fillers? Right.
Yeah. Was it just calcium, or was it like a multi combination herbs with trace minerals and fulvic and humic acids and adaptogens, and like that's supplements also, right? So you have to, you can't lump them all together. Now, so your question on red light and infrared, those are in a different spot on the spectrum. They do have physiologic effects, but it's very superficial. So they only penetrate just a little bit. They do good things like help with mitochondria and that kind of thing, but it doesn't have a deep penetration all the way through the body, like pulsed electromagnetic field just runs straight through the whole system. So I feel those are additive, but to me, the foundation is got to charge the batteries. And then the other things you put on top of that. So that's kind of that piece and why it intrigued me. And I waited for like 15 years before I engaged because I felt that older technology wasn't good enough.
So what shifted in terms of knowing that this technology was better, and how can like a consumer be able to tell like the wheat from the chaff, so to speak?
Yeah, well, what really it's that piece of like what are the active ingredients, and it's the signal. It's how complex is the signal. So that's that analogy of like it's just calcium carbonate, or it's like 10 different synergistic things combined. So most PMF is like one little square wave or a little sawtooth wave, and that's it. And this is like 128 different waves of different sizes and shapes, and also superimposed upon itself. So it's this ultra broad spectrum signal, and nothing else has that. So the device is called a cloud, KLOWD. Maybe you can put a link in the show notes or something.
Yes, if you email it to me, I can.
Yeah, I'll send that to you. And it's from Syntropics is the company. So that's what I've decided is very helpful, and I've had good results myself and with other people.
I love those kind of modalities because, I mean, first of all, is there anyone who shouldn't be using like a PEMF device? Is there like contraindications?
Very, very few. So organ transplant.
Okay.
And the reason is because it generally stimulates the immune system, and people who have had transplants are on immune stimulants so they don't reject the organ. So there's that. Implanted medical devices like pacemakers and stuff is usually okay, but you just got to check with the manufacturer and see what its shielding rate is. It's usually not a problem, but they need to check. It's not recommended in pregnant people because you got to say that about everything unless it's been tested as such. And active bleeding, if you're actively bleeding, don't use one because it tends to thin the blood a little bit, which is usually a good thing unless you're having that.
Right.
So it's super safe. Yeah.
Okay.
But again, the devices are all different, and so that you need to.
So you can only speak to the cloud device because that's
that's what I've researched, and I'm actually the medical director for the company. So Syntropics Global. Yeah.
What I noticed when I met you at NHF and you let me try the little mat, because
we met at IMA.
IMA. That's right. I did so many conferences.
You've probably done a zillion conferences. It was Independent Medical.
It was Independent Medical Alliance.
Yes.
You're right. I shouldn't be doing so many conferences back to back. But for those who don't know, my wrist is broken in a couple different places right now. And so you took pity on me and my injured self working all these events, not at my best. And you put me on this mat. And I will say it felt so soothing, like deep in the bone where it was broken, like not in like a painful way, but just like in a deep, like soothing hug way. I could feel it really kind of helping to relax deep in my tissues. It was a really unique experience, very different than like a infrared sauna or like a red light mat, which I
yeah, because it's running all the way. It's running all the way through the tissues. Yeah,
I could really feel it going very deeply into my body, but in a very like gentle and soothing way. Certainly not in like an aggressive or way that made me feel more guarded in something that was already injured. So I really appreciated that experience, and I've tried a couple different PEMF mats over the years. And this is the first one that I could really perceive as doing something. The other ones, I really couldn't perceive anything shifting in my body in real time. And this one I could actually perceive that, okay. And then for the rest of the day, it felt like not great. It was still broken, but I was able to get through that event much easier because at IMA, I was in a lot of pain. And then after doing that PMF mat, it really did help the whole rest of that day go better for me, which I, obviously very much appreciated.
Yeah.
But like, that's, I guess, my testimonial as someone who's a real person who went in with a couple broken bones and could perceive a huge lift in my pain scale.
Yeah.
Just from like 10 minutes that I was there.
Yeah, it's 15 minutes. Yeah, 15-minute sessions. So yeah, that's I mean, exactly what you said is why I waited until this device came out, because that was my experience with using PMF in the past. Was maybe I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not so sure. Maybe after a few months. It felt like the
realm of placebo. Like
maybe and like occasionally, and I'm not bad. I'm not like bad mouthing those. It just I felt it had not gotten sophisticated enough yet until the cloud. So that's. But what you described is common. People say, I actually perceived a shift.
Yeah, I could perceive it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was really neat and useful. Because I had a bunch of work to do. It was very useful.
Yeah,
I had a bunch of work to do and I had to get it done. And I was glad that I was able to get some relief. So you've got the cloud, but you also have this whole site, quantum parasite protocol, that looking at was really amazing to kind of explore all the unique ways in which you're helping support people's health. Like, talk to me more about like the private practice you have. I'm assuming it's a direct pay private practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all, I do it remote and online. And so, I'm working, I call myself, I'm not their doctor.
Yeah.
Staying out of that whole monopoly game. But but I'm helping people with their overall life vitality. And so what we were talking about before is this expanding my view and moving more towards expanded view is there's of course your physical self. But as you start moving out from that, from a frequency standpoint, like the next layer would be your energetic body, which can be measured with some devices and so forth. And you can feel that, right? When you come close to someone, you feel like, whoop, we're like overlapping, right?
Yeah.
Your energetic self, and then there's your emotional self, and the mental self, and then your spiritual piece. And so I started realizing over time the critical impact of all those other layers on the physical, but also just quality of life. I mean, we know, mind, body, but there's also body, mind. And there's also how spiritual self affects your mental, and your mental affects your spirit and your energetic. Yeah. People who have no energetic boundaries and get totally enmeshed, that affects them physically. Emotional trauma impacts your immune system, back and forth in all these directions. So I really, as I grew in my understanding of all that, I wanted to work with people on all those levels, not just one, not just like make my physical whatever go away, but like, well, why is that there? And what are the other pieces that are contributing to that? And let's explore that. So I developed this paradigm and also a process called the quantum parasite protocol. And it really came through after I left medicine completely in 21. I just knew I had to leave for multiple reasons, which I'm sure you can understand.
I'm sure I can surmise some of the reasons.
I mean, I'd kind of been on the fringes for a long time, but it just became extreme, of course, and the control started just getting more extreme. But also I had this intuition, like, I think something else is wanting to emerge from me. And it's not going to happen when I'm still super busy doing the stuff. There's just no room for something new to show up. So much to my trepidation, because I had no plan, I walked away, and my wife was, at the time, was super supportive, and I'm like, I have no plan. Like, so go for it. You got to do what your heart's calling you to do. So we did, and then it took like a year or more before like this, because I was twiddling, going, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next
I'm waiting.
Hello?
I'm waiting for my next order.
Come on, I gotta. And I couldn't rush it, but it started coming, and I'm like, okay. And then I learned like remote energetic testing, what people might call applied kinesiology, or so I started learning that as a way of assessing these things, and combined like my whole life's knowledge of functional medicine, but also emotional trauma work and mental programming and spiritual stuff, and started bringing it all together in a way that made sense to me. So I work with individuals that way, and I also have 2 apprentices right now that are almost ready to start seeing people. So that'll be coming on this summer. There'll be 2 more people, and then I want to work with more apprentices and really teach them how to do it as well. And who knows, maybe we'll start growing a community.
So to be an apprentice with you, do you have to have like an MD or any kind of licensure, or do you just have to be willing to learn?
No, I mean, there needs to be some basis in holistic wellness of some kind to inform that process, but no, there's no license requirements, because I'm not seeing people. I'm not seeing people under my license. I call myself a vitality mentor. So
no, I love that. It mirrors kind of my own story in a different way. I don't know if we had talked about this, but before I joined TFEC, I was a mental health professional for many years. And I discovered the same thing that you did, which is that the actual like field itself was very limiting, and trying to control how I could help people and help them move through their traumas. They would only, when I was an insurance provider, I could only do certain modalities and nothing else for certain amounts of time and nothing else. And I had to give people labels left and right. And I wasn't free to really help them discover the root of what's driving these patterns. And they were showing up in different ways in their bodies. And so I did the same thing. I let go of licensure and began to practice more freely, and did some of my best work. And then I, found TFEC and found this whole other calling that I didn't know was there as life works. So I love it when I can meet someone else who's just driven by their desire to help others heal as deeply as possible, and that they're willing to have the courage to like go beyond their current knowing to discover it. So
cool.
Well done, you.
Thank you. I think it's part of this, the work, and is just this expanded awareness that we are multi-leveled, multi-dimensional beings. And it's also moving out of this passive victim standpoint, which I know you get, is like, even I work with people with their language, and, I have this, I have that. When they talk about my this is activated, I'm like, what is the this? It's actually it's a belief system. I'm not saying those things aren't there, whatever, these are labels and so forth. But like, what's your direct experience? What is your direct experience that you're having in this now moment from just a descriptive standpoint? And then let's look at what are the dynamics that might be going on that are influencing what you're experiencing. And it's hard to make proactive choice of things that you're not aware of. So,
Right.
part of my focus was to bring into awareness that which people are not aware of, sort of in the
Right.
paradigm of these 5 layers. So
Yep.
I used the energetic testing, as you probably saw on the site, but I used remote resonance testing to assess, like on a scale of 0 to 1,000, how much parasitism is involved in you at this time, at the physical level, the energetic level, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual levels. And I scale that 0 to 1,000. And then I also test how are they affecting each other, and I scale that 0 to 10. So we get this whole picture of like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And the fascinating thing is it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
And so far, everyone, when we've looked at the calibrations, like they may be, 950 on the physical and 200 energetic and 1,000 emotional and 400 mental, etc. When we look at that and I go through that, they're like, oh, I can see it. They're just like,
Yeah.
they like you lean back, like, yeah, I get it.
Yep.
I get it. And then when we look at how much is the mental affecting the physical, how much is the physical affecting your emotional, and that also is like, oh, yep. And from that place, then there's this awareness, like, okay, now, do you want to move forward and look at how we can remove the things that are actually parasitic in all those levels, not just bugs in your gut? Because if you got parasites in the physical level, you probably have it at these others too, right?
Yeah,
and if you only address one level, it tends to just come back. That's why I did a cleanse, or I did this emotional work, or I did trying to do this spiritual stuff, but I just I just keep coming back to my set point. So that was part of what drove that.
What an empowering viewpoint as a patient, like to be able to recognize like how much influence you have in the way your body is expressing itself, and how empowering to realize that you have so much more control and autonomy over your own healing journey than has ever been implied to you by traditional allopathy.
Yeah.
That even reshaping just your thought patterns and the way you view your experience in illness or your experience in dysregulation, how even just changing your perspective on what that means to you and the feedback that it's giving your body can really impact your external experience. I mean, it's amazing to me how, and I just love how empowering that message is as a patient, rather than being told something's wrong with you that we have to fix through these external things, or we have to remove organs or give you extra drugs. We can help you discover what's driving this from within you and help you discover what you need to let go of it.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Agree. Because to me, the natural state, physically, energetically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is like calm, centered, vital, alive, vibrant. It's other dynamics that actually have dampened that. And I mean, some of it's intense. A lot of trauma, total, programming from the time we were born, toxins and stealth et cetera. But when I started looking into all these root cause things and going down, I'm like, how are we even still walking around? Like, if you start looking at, there's like 75,000 man-made chemicals that we've never been exposed to ever, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So we are incredibly resilient, and we're incredibly resilient emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I mean, if you've heard it. And what you did, you probably heard stories of abuse and trauma. This like
unbelievable
my
amounts
God.
of trauma that someone
How
not only survived,
is this possible?
But endured and could rediscover how to thrive after those things.
Yes.
The resilience of the human heart and just the human in general is so strong, but you have to be willing to look at it and work with it and take ownership of your role. You know, allopathy, one of the beefs I have with it is that it's so passive for the patient.
Yes.
Like the patient is just supposed to sit there and follow orders, and they're not an active participant in their care in general.
Yeah.
And the other models really flip it on its head, and it's very much patient led. And the doctor, the practitioner is there to guide and kind of show you the pathway, but it's that person who decides to take every step themselves.
Yes. It's instead of being under a dictatorship, you're reclaiming sovereignty.
Right.
And, you know, to me, if we look at, when I say parasitism, I'm really describing relational dynamics, whether it's microbes in your system, because, I mean, it's all relationship. So, for instance, if you look at Candida or something, people say, is Candida a parasite? Well, I'm like, well, it depends. What's the relationship? Is it in balance?
Right.
Because we all have Candida in us and on us. Is it in balance and a symbiotic, or has it become very imbalanced where it's actually extracting more than it's giving?
Right.
You can say the same thing with interpersonal relationships, or the relationship with the government or bank, or spiritual dynamics and entities and so forth. What's the nature of the relationship? So to identify where parasitism is, those imbalanced things, and then to, as you said, face, allow, transform, release. And I make a big point of not skipping over the accepting where you are.
Yeah.
You know, to me, you can't just jump over, okay, that's there. Now I'm just going to jump over and feel good.
Yeah.
Well, you actually, you know, if I want to if this is a thing, whatever, a belief system if I want to let go of it, I have to pick it up first.
Yep.
I can't just lay it there on the table and go, I'm letting go of that thing. No, I actually have to own it, look at it, pick it up, and then, okay, now I release this. But I first brought into full ownership that I have it. And so that's an important piece.
I mean, we even use that in our outreach training. The last step in outreach is always allow. You accept your partner where they are. You allow them to shift in their direction and their pace.
Yeah.
Because you just have to let go of that process at that point. But you have to accept it first, right? That radical acceptance piece of just, I am here, and here sucks for me. But I'm finally willing to do the things I need to do to get to a different space. Yeah. Right.
And it is a very courageous thing to do, because it does involve going into the unknown also. If there's a lifelong patterns, wherever someone is, like it's a lifetime of getting there. So to look at transforming that and letting go of those things, what happens if I don't have this label, or I don't have these repetitive thoughts that I'm so used to and so comfortable with, like, or if I face this fear, I might blow up or die. Like, for instance, I just had someone recently, a client, and when we did her calibrations in the energetic and emotional dimensions, she was at 1,000 in the 0 out of 1,000, magnitude of parasitism. So we gently just kind of, and I asked her, I said, would you just write for me, open-ended, your life story, starting at the beginning and moving forward, with no prompts. Trust whatever comes up is what is meant to go. Just, summary. It's like, okay. And she was completely blown away, because the very first thing she wrote, the first 3 lines that just came flying out of her, and this was a committed person, and this is an important part. You have to be willing to look at what you haven't seen. You know this, like the first 4 lines that came out was something that she had never told anyone and was planning on going to her grave. with it. She had the courage to just put it down. And that was a threshold for her. And of course, I held that with deep honor and respect. But it was the actual her, like, just putting it out. This happened.
Yeah.
And that is such a beautiful step towards healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love how you acknowledge the kind of out in the wilderness aspect of healing. When I was doing that kind of work with people on the emotional level, I would describe it as like the open ocean season of transformation. When you've left the shore of the island that you're comfortable with and you're swimming in the open sea in trust that the new island where you'd really belong is going to show up. But there's always a place where you can no longer see the shore that you left. And you also cannot see the shore that you're arriving to. And you're just out in the middle of nowhere on full faith.
Yeah.
And like, that is the moment that kills a lot of people's transformation process. They get so scared.
Yes.
And that is the moment where, like, you as a practitioner and me as a practitioner, that's where we really help them keep going, right? Through that difficult moment of you don't feel the ground beneath you and you've lost orientation, right?
Yeah. And that is, and everyone's on their journey, right? And they're doing their thing. I recently had someone who halfway through, she canceled everything and left, and I'm just like blessed.
Yep.
But there was this massive expansion that was occurring. We were working on her significant physical stuff, emotional stuff. She was seeing empowerment and making some decisions, and then like reached a threshold, and it was too much. It was too much at that point in time for her. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I'm going back to
I'm going back to the island.
I'm going back. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going back to the island.
Even though, she said that the island's killing me, but it was, I'm like, the door is open for you if and when you ever, want to re-engage.
Yeah.
And the other piece I want to bring up, which I find I just get so fascinated by, is there is not only resistance in that we were talking about, there's like some personal resistance that might come up to like transformation, but parasitic things, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, they are survivors. Like they've been around longer than we have, and they are survivors, and they manipulate behavior. They manipulate thoughts, they manipulate actions to survive. So one of the fascinating, when people engage in this, okay, I'm ready, let's do it, let's go after it. All kinds of weird things start happening sometimes. Like self-sabotage out of nowhere. They're like, it wasn't even me. I don't know. All of a sudden I found myself like, whatever, couldn't find my, your email, and I forgot this, but it wasn't myself. It was something that was actually guiding me. And you can see this in feeding behavior too. Like a lot of food cravings are actually parasitic in nature. Yeah. Like feed me sugar. It's like, it's actually not you. But the sabotage starts coming in. So I recognize them now. I'm like, oh, there they are. They're trying to get you to not do this because they know like the lights have been turned on in the closet. Yeah. And they know you're coming for them. So it's
I would
we
call
laugh
that
about
a fear
it.
contraction in my practice. I would say it sounds like you're having a fear contraction, right? Which is when everything kind of freaks out and contracts in on itself. Like, oh, I'm too exposed right now.
So that can be the true self, the sort of, that whether it's the traumatized or whatever self, but it can also be the parasites are having a fear contraction. Right. And you are actually feeling that by proxy, and they are trying to call you off the trail. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, healing work in general. I mean, again, it's so amazing to watch someone with complete honor and reverence go through that courageous process, because it really is such a courageous thing to do, to really begin to reflect on how you're contributing to whatever is happening in your life on a real intense level. So what does it look like when a new person comes to work with you? Like, what is that process like? what's the cadence of visits? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. Well, the general, the other piece I wanted to say about like to that's why I like working on all these together, is because to actually work on some of those other levels, like the emotional and the mental and even the spiritual, you have to have a physical foundation that's not like pulling you down. If people are heavy, toxic, inflamed, totally energetically drained, even though you want to do these things, there's just not the vitality to do it. So that's why you build. You're doing it all at the same time. But the QPP, or the Quantum Parasite Protocol, is a 4-month process. I'm actually rebuilding it with a new semi-automated pipeline, which should be ready to go within the next month. But right now, it's all just like with me, and I meet with people. At this point, we meet 5 times by Zoom call over that, with text and email support in between. So we do the calibrations of the parasitism, and then the second visit, I look specifically using remote muscle testing what pathogens, parasites, and toxins are present and to what degree, and I create custom supplement-based protocols to help address those things. So, are there specific worms or bacteria or viruses or fungi or toxins present to help support the body in relieving those pieces. Yeah. And then we work on emotional things, mental things. I have a couple consultants that I occasionally will refer to for some specific, like emotion code, and some things like that. And then we just work together, and I recalibrate halfway through and at the end, so people can see what are their numbers, at those three points.
That's cool. And people are experiencing wonderful results going through this program with you?
The vast majority are. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And it's, as you could tell from just our conversation, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. Yeah. But the ones who come to me, they're like, look at the website or, listen to a talk, and they're like, yep, it's time. And most people are folks who said, I've done all kinds of things and there are blocks to moving forward. And I know there are some things present that I have not seen or don't know about, or I want to address all the levels because I've done this and I did this and I've sort of randomly, and I know there's more. I know there's more there. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, cool, let's find out what the more is so that you can then go to the next levels. So some of my people are quite ill, chronic complex illness. Others are less so, but wanting to optimize their life on all dimensions. And then I have some people who are on like retainer, where we just do periodic calibrations for tune-ups, like, the physical piece is creeping back in. Let's see what's going on there. And then we tune that up, or what's going on here on the emotional piece, and how can we, because that has creeped back up over this 4 months. So
that's great. So people can learn more about your website at quantumparasiteprotocol.com, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll send me the link for the cloud.
The cloud, There's also on the Quantum Parasite Protocol, there's a link to my cloud page. I think I call it's at the top. I think it's like frequency supports or something like that. But that links out to the cloud page. But I'll give you that site also, and people can reach out to me if they have questions about that and want to talk about the specifics on the cloud. I'm glad to jump on a call with folks too. On my website, you can book a discovery call. So if it's a discovery call about the Quantum Parasite Protocol or a discovery call about the cloud, they can book there.
Toggle down. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to make sure to share with our audience before we close today?
Well, I think I really love how it feels like we are in alignment, because a lot of the work, you do is also around sovereignty,
Yes.
trusting the body, taking proactive action to make your own choice of what does and doesn't happen to this sacred vessel and our divine nature. And just to encourage people, like, I don't think you're broken.
Right.
I know you, Carrie, also like feel that way.
Yeah.
And that on a core self, there is your whole, and and let's look at what isn't that, and so we can free it up a bit. And I feel Earth School is only for badasses. Like this, what we work with as human beings is amazing. It's amazing,
yeah, it's
and
very challenging.
And it's such an intense school, and people are doing amazing. And so I've seen a lot of, even if people are dealing with significant chronic illness, like it is a journey of transformation if embraced in that way. And most people who've moved through that and are moving through that are like, oh my gosh, this has shown me so much.
Yeah.
It has taught me to look at what serves my best interest and what doesn't, very precisely. Because if I start ignoring things, I know
they come back.
Yeah, right. Then I start feeling bad. So embraced as a journey of empowerment and freedom, I think, is important. And I just wish the best for all the listeners and you, and thank you for your great work that you're doing, Carrie.
Well, I'm so glad that we connected, because we're definitely in alignment. And you heard it from Dr. Wulfman himself, you guys. You are not broken. There is so much autonomy and empowerment to discover in driving your own health journey. Here at TFEC, we're here to make sure that legally you can have all the choices and the freedom that you need to direct your ship wherever it needs to go, that no one else gets to decide for you what goes in your one precious body and is expressed in your one and precious life. I thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Wulfman. I know we're going to end up talking some more. I enjoy you tremendously.
Yeah, cool.
I'm so thankful for doctors like him in the world. Do the work to find a doctor who resonates with you and views themselves as a partner in your healing journey, rather than someone who wants to hijack it. Learn more about Dr. Wulfman at quantumparasiteprotocol.com. I'll have that flash on the screen by the time the episode airs. Thank you so much for listening. It's been another wonderful, engaging episode. Thank you so much to Dr. Wulfman for taking the time out of his busy life to share a little snippet of the incredible work that he's been doing. And thank you to all of you for taking the time to learn with me today.
All right.
I am Carrie Bigford, Outreach Director, and this has been another episode of Shock Callers. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Shot Callers podcast. Please, if you found value in this content, rate us and share the podcast with a friend. It's a great way to get the message out and to empower everyone to make informed decisions. Until next time, never forget, we are the Shot Callers.